Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am your host, Edgar De Jesus, and yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zach, the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today, we're diving into the real-world accidents pool pros face and the insurance that keeps those aha moments from wiping out their bank accounts. Danielle and Laurel from the SPPA are here to spill the tea on the industry's most common claims and how you can avoid becoming the next cautionary tale. But before we do that, I want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, the podcast where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we get started today, I want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA,
What up?
Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Poolside Tech, Pool Brain, and Nidec. We want to thank them for their continued support. Miss Danielle, I would say welcome for the first time, but I have to say welcome back.
Hello.
How are you?
Good to see you again.
How was your trip into Dallas?
Really good. It seems like every time I come out here, I make a girls' trip out of it. So we got in Friday, went straight to a rodeo in Fort Worth in the stockyards, which was, let me just say, I was a little overdressed. All of us were. We wore matching dresses, and everyone kept asking why we were here and what we were doing. Was it like a bachelorette party or something? And so we decided to make up this thing. We said we're doing a divorce party, even though, and they're like, well, who's a divorcee? We're like, oh, she went back. She's really sad. And so the whole night, it was like a divorce party without the girl that was even, we just made her up.
You couldn't even have said it was just it had to be a divorce party.
Yeah, you had to make something up. Yeah, and then Saturday we went to the big rodeo at the AT&T Center, and it was amazing, scary. I felt like the whole time I was like sweating palms because I'm so afraid of, they're like bucking in one bowl. It seems like they're going to fall on them. And one moment, like the bowl landed on the guy's neck and he got thrown off, and it's like exciting but scary. But
Now,
I think I'm going to come back and do it again. It was fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I was going to say, was this like a one-off, got together with the girls and let's just rodeo's what we're going to do?
Yeah.
Or are you into the rodeo thing?
Okay, so my friend Chelsea, her aunt invested in a bowl for the PBR. So she has like ownership in a bowl. And so that's how she started going first. And then I'm like, I want to go to the next one. It sounds fun. Yeah, it's cool.
You have ownership of a bull. I've never heard that before.
Do you buy parts of it?
Yeah.
So do you cheer for the bull to not be able to, I'm assuming, right?
I think so. Some of these bowls are expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess like there's some bowls that are not as crazy, and then they make their way up all the way up to the crazier ones, I guess.
Uh-huh.
You want the crazy ones, right? Aren't they the good ones?
Yeah, I think that's where they make the most money on these bull riders. So there was that one moment they were going to make $1 million, some young kid, for riding this one bull. Yeah, that night.
That's
How
crazy.
long? Like a minute? Or how long do they ride?
I think it's only like 8 seconds.
8 seconds. Oh my
It's
gosh.
8 seconds.
It's so hard.
We were joking.
Right.
I was like, man, they're going to be hurt. I wake up in the morning and hurt. So I can't imagine what these kids feel like. And they're young. They're like in their 20s. But I'm like, I'm moving, my neck hurts from sleeping on a wrong pillow. So I don't know what they're going to.
We're at a different stage.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I did a couple honeydews and had to take a couple ibuprofen last night before I went to bed.
That's so funny. Like, what?
Oh, in our 20s, you could just land, break your neck, and walk it off.
Yeah,
You know?
for sure. Yeah.
Get up the next day and
No.
do it again.
Yeah.
And let me tell you what I love, Laura, about when she comes into town, because every time she comes into town, she comes with the girls, and it's always an adventure,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So It's always awesome. And it was so funny because we went to dinner. So Friday we had Adam and Kevin in town, and we went to Legacy West.
Oh, yeah.
So of course I had to tell the story of every time that you come into town where we go. So we always go shopping down there.
Yeah.
So I was telling them the story. The funny one with Dustin from Precision, right? Where he wanted to buy his wife a bag. And I was like, you do not know what you're getting yourself into. You do not want to go with Danielle shopping. Don't do that.
Don't go with Danielle.
No. You want to go with me, and I'll take you somewhere, but not.
She'll come home with a nice bag.
Yeah, for sure. She got one.
She got one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what, Dustin, if you're listening, we never got a picture of
I know,
her
what
with her,
happened?
right? He said he was going to send a picture and never did.
Yeah.
So
Did she
anyway.
like it?
Right. Or is he going to be wearing it to the pool shows?
Oh, yeah. Remember, he said if she doesn't, I'll wear it. Yeah. Okay.
So
It was immersed.
it was immersed.
Immerse.
Laurel, welcome.
Thank you.
I have to apologize because you came into the studio and for some reason I was like, welcome back. And it was like, you've been to Frisco,
Yes.
but you weren't into the podcast studio.
Nope.
So-
I've done the classes and I've been to the convention center and the business bar and all kinds of things.
You've done it all because you've done the Western with us.
Yes.
You've done Dallas, the Pool Nation Conference.
Yep.
You've done the videos over at the studio in Frisco.
Yeah, because you asked me to come educate, and I get so scared. I'm not really good at that. I'm like, I'll get up and be like,
right. Yeah. Laurel and I are like, whatever.
Yeah, she's not good at that, right?
yeah, I'm not very good at that. No.
whatever.
And then I'm like, Laurel, it's so weird. I can't make it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That is what happened.
I think that you should do this, right?
So-
You're so good at it.
You know my part, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But then she told me one time she couldn't do my part. And I said, you just wrote an entire article about my part. So I don't know what you're talking about.
And I don't know why she does that because she's so natural. I think she just gets it into her own head at the beginning. But
For
it's like
sure.
once you
Right.
start, you're like, you go.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's, yeah.
I would agree.
maybe next time what we do is we start with a couple shots of tequilas with all the girls, and then that'll loosen her up, and then they can cheer her on from the crowd.
There we go.
funny. I
Yeah.
was just saying that this morning. We should do that because I think I'll loosen up a little more.
There we go. Yeah.
Conversation will flow better.
The problem is it's video, so we don't want to have any in case, we
I know.
overdo it, and then somebody's like sleeping on
Yeah,
the podcast
exactly.
studio over there.
Yeah.
We don't want to have proof.
Just a few shots. I don't know how many you're talking about.
You know how it is. You might start with one and
Yeah.
figure out that the nerves are not going away, and you take two and you take three, and then
Right.
by the fourth or the fifth, you're just out of it.
You're on the
Yeah.
couch over there.
Yeah, you're on the couch sleeping over there.
It's a downward spiral.
Yeah, but excited to have you ladies in town. Want to talk about a couple things. Before we do that, let me just get through some housekeeping notes here for everybody. Danielle, believe it or not, which by the way, exciting that Danielle is here. Do you know that Danielle, since we started the Pool Nation Awards, you're probably the last person standing
What?
that has presented at every single one of our awards.
Oh, wow.
And I got my dress already.
And,
so
I think
excited.
we're going for a streak now. I think your husband at some point is probably going to get angry with us and be like, really, you've done like 25 of these and you need to keep going? It's like, we have a streak going now.
You know what, though? It's like we get to get out of town and be together, and that's fun. So,
Yeah. Get
You
to
know.
dress up
yeah.
and have a good
couple
time.
days.
So,
Vegas is always the best. That's my favorite.
and that's a little bit closer for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're already in the planning and trying to figure out where we're
Cool.
going to have the after party.
Ooh.
All that. So it'll be fun. Believe it or not, the nominations open this year, June 18th, because the awards are going to be in October because the show's in October. So everything got pushed up a month.
Oh, it's in October.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're literally like 29 days away from
It might
the
be a little
nominations.
warmer, which is cool.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Then after that, we have the Women's Summit, which is going to be
Oh, yeah.
August 21st and 22nd.
Okay.
And then here I'm throwing you a curveball here on the live podcast, but the Wednesday, which is normally we do the nomination night. So nomination night, we go, we do the live Instagram, we open the envelopes and everybody finds out who the nominees are, right? Nobody
Right.
finds out until that night. So this year, the nomination night is going to be the 20th and the 21st is the Women's Summit.
Oh.
So we decided to do something a little bit different.
Oh, in Vegas.
The nominations are
Oh, I
are
see,
here.
I see. Yeah, nominations. Got it. Okay.
Nominations. So what we're going to do is, because it's the night before the women's, we're going to do a nomination night only women are going to present at the nomination
that'll
night.
be fun.
So
Different.
And then we even talked, and I was like, okay, so do I get up and do the welcome and then have the women do it? And then I was voted out, and they're like, no, you're voted off the island. Like, there's no men in that stream whatsoever. So we had to go out and find a woman to be able to do the intro, and then we'll do all the categories.
Awesome.
I thought that was cool.
That does sound great.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to do that on the Wednesday night. We'll be doing
Sounds
cocktails and kind of hors d'oeuvres and stuff like that the night before. And
I'll
then
have to bring my gifts this time. I heard the boss hats went great.
Girl, those boss hats is what made the whole thing go viral.
Yeah.
Because everybody was posting. And then a lot of times when I talk to the women, they give me the hashtag and they're like, if you know, you know.
That's so funny.
And I'm like, that
I
was
never knew
so
it was going to be that
awesome.
good. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So the
I love
hats
it.
were like all over the place. And then Alicia from Biolab wants to do some shirts, and she's like, hey, can I push the hashtag on
I
that?
love
I'm like,
that.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's cool.
So you started something.
That's awesome. I love it.
So that's the 21st and the 22nd.
Okay.
Then after that, we head out to October, I think it's the 19th through the 25th, or the 22nd through the 25th for the Pool Nation
Wednesday?
Conference.
Wednesday through-
it's Wednesday. So the PSP Expo will be those days, and then we'll do
Cool.
$10,000 Pool Pro Challenge and all that.
Yay.
So anyways, excited about that. I'm really excited that you came into town and you're like, hey, let's talk about this. And by the way, this entire podcast idea was yours, which I love. One of the things that we wanted to talk about and talk to pool pros and business owners about setting up their businesses for success from every aspect to it, right? There's a lot of that's not always talked about, and that's obviously protecting your business, protecting your family, right? And that goes into a lot of different things, whether it's general liability, whether it's life, whether it's disability. And what we wanted to do was a little bit different and talk a little bit more about what are some of the most common claims. And really the idea of it is really we want the pool pros out there to be aware of what some of those common issues are so that they can avoid them, because there's nothing worse than having to put a claim in. And I was very fortunate that I never had one, but I knew of a lot of friends that had them. There was one of the guys in our UPA chapter that had been in business 25 years, never had a claim. He went over to empty a pool in Santa Ana, and he put it into and it was on the right P-trap for the house, but I guess it was a very old house and some trees had grown roots through it and it flooded the house. And
oh, wow.
He's like, did I ever think that this was going to happen to me? Absolutely not.
No, especially after 25 years. You don't think it's going to happen to you, and it does. It does to a lot of people.
Yeah. And so he was like, I am so glad that I have coverage. I could sleep at night. And it's unfortunate, right, when it comes to claims and stuff like that, how things can get very ugly very quickly, even with customers that you have a good relationship with. I think people tend to just try to throw whoever under the bus and kind of protect themselves, which is what happens. So
they look for someone to pay the cost, to take the responsibility instead of them.
Yeah. And even though it wasn't his fault, there's a tree that grows the roots and creates a blockage and floods, but they did end up having to pay.
Let me ask you a question as a pool guy from before. What happens? How do you determine whether or not do you camera that before you were to put the water down the clean out? Is that something, how do you find out if there's a blockage in there? And this is one of my main claims I get all the time. Although I grew up in the pool industry, I've never even asked that question. How do you know whether or not there's trees blockage in there?
I don't think that you do. I don't think most pool pros are going to go find a camera and put a camera through it and run it. There's just obviously that expense or having to find somebody else to do that and that kind of stuff. And in all those years, that's been the only one that I heard of that happening. But I'm sure, and we'll talk about it, it's probably a little bit more common.
Yeah, I think it's really common. I think maybe some kind of a waiver or something that the homeowners could sign, because it seems like I'm going through millions of dollars of claims here over the last 13 years, and that's one that I see the most of.
Yeah.
Or have the owners pay the expense of having a camera run through the pipes before you do that.
That might be a good idea. Yeah.
It's expensive, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it would really depend. But my head already starts to spin in the direction with some education stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So I like it. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what are some of those most common claims that you see. If I had to think right off the top of my head and pick one, I think maybe a lot of acid issues with staining.
Get a lot of staining, whether it's just on the pool deck. That's something that has happened multiple times where it just colors the deck of the pool. And so we have to go in and pay for the expense of that. Also, there's someone just had brand new pavers put in their house. They did the whole driveway in pavers, and the acid had fallen over in the back of the truck and caused a stain all the way down from the end of the driveway all the way up to the front of the house. And so they went to replace it, and they couldn't just replace those one pavers because they stopped making them. So they had to redo the complete driveway all over again, and that was very expensive. I mean, it would have been probably under a couple thousand if it wasn't the case where they had to replace everything, but that was one.
That's insane.
I know.
You don't think about that. They're discontinued tiles. You have to make it look
Yeah.
the way it looked before.
And I just did that to my driveway at my house, and I would be so bummed as a homeowner if I went outside and we get bummed when someone puts oil in our driveway, but I'd be so bummed. So I get it as a homeowner too. I think the other one would be over chemicalizing a pool, causing damage to the plaster. We see that a lot. We see a lot, which is hard for me to understand, but I see a lot of these dark bottom pools, and they're being stained. And it's something where I try to say, don't be acid washing dark bottom pool because these things are going to happen, or,
And I did have a buddy of mine that had a dark bottom pool. I had one of his first employees that he hired, and the guy bought a bucket of Tri-Chlor instead of a bucket of Dichlor. And the guy went and he just threw a whole bunch of Tri-Chlor into the dark bottom pool. And then he called me up in a panic and he goes, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Sorry, but you're screwed. Like, you're going to have to." So he didn't want to put it through his insurance claim. And this is when replastering was a lot cheaper, right? This is probably like 2010, but he paid out of pocket like $6,500 to somebody that he knew to have to replaster the entire pool. But that's a great point.
Yeah, we see stains all the time. That's one of our probably largest ones besides putting the water down on the wrong clean out. The overflows is another one. I always say if you are going to fill up a pool, put your keys on the spigot. We always say try to do that, but that's another one. Yeah, overflows of pools is a big one where they're getting...
So they leave the water on and they overfill the pool and get into the backyard and do some damage.
Yeah. I always try to tell them, maybe you just have the homeowner do it, because then at the end of the day, you're not liable for it.
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can, as a pool professional, can get out of without making themselves liable. They don't put themselves in those situations.
Yeah. And then there's a couple different thought processes to that. So I never filled any of my customers' pools. That's not my response in a nice way. Right. It's not my responsibility. Second, that if I'm there for 15 minutes, putting a hose for 15 minutes is not going to do anything to a pool. So a lot of that was I could turn that water on, but in the 15 minutes that I'm there, 20 minutes that I'm there, it's not going to make that much of an impact. Number two, if I forget to turn that water off, now I'm responsible for that.
Yeah.
And so I even did a bunch of vacation rentals across the street from Disneyland, and the people would come to me and be like, "Oh, we need you to fill the pool." And I'm like, "Nope, not my responsibility." And they're like, "But we don't have anybody." I'm like, "Unfortunately, I can't take the liability to forgetting and overfilling that pool, because I know that even though you tell me, oh, it's no big deal, we'll take responsibility, as soon as that happens, that's not going to be the case."
Yeah, just take the stress out of it for sure.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have the time. Like you said, you're in and out, and it takes more than that to refill the pool.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, when we talk about the over-chemicalization of the pools, is a lot of it, are you seeing it in the dark bottom pools, or do you guys see in different plasters?
In both, but I would say the majority is dark bottom. Dark bottoms are number one, I would say. And it is from the Tri-Chlor.
It's from the Tri-Chlor.
So that's a good education thing, too. If you want to bring that up, we'll start doing little bullet points of some educational stuff to bring up. And then the other thing is over-chemicalization causing corroding to heaters. We see that a ton. They'll call out and say, "Oh, this is probably under warranty." And then they come out and they're like, "Nope, this is not our fault. This is the pool guy's fault for putting too many, over-chemicalizing it and causing corrosion." So then we're replacing these heaters, and they're expensive now.
Yeah, they're not cheap anymore.
No.
I was just talking about it the other day. I'm like, man,
Yeah.
to install a heater nowadays, $5,000-$6,000.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So we talk about that with heaters and stuff like that, and it's difficult because I remember doing a pool and taking over a pool, and the lady came in, bought the house. I started service with the new company, and I only had her for maybe about 2 months. And that same thing happened. The home warranty came out, and they're like, "Nope, we're not going to cover it, blah, 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 blah."
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that I had warranty coming over, I always told them to schedule it so I could be there. because I wanted to avoid here's what's going on. So even in that specific one, I was there and he tested the water. Everything was perfect. The only thing that was low was the chlorine, which was at about a 0.5. But chlorine they denied the claim anyways, right? But the homeowner came to me and was like, this is your responsibility. And I'm like, I started this pool like 2 months ago. I can't guarantee what happened before that. Is there any way to deal with that or no, as an insurance, once I take over that pool, I'm responsible?
I always say keep logs, take pictures, all the things that you can always fall back on, because your insurance is there for you to also fight for you. So we have instances where someone will say, here's all my logs, here's the times I've been there. We've had perfect chemicals in the pool every time. And yes, I did take this pool over recently, so it's not my fault. This is like that. We haven't fired up the heater in forever, so how would we know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say definitely pictures, logs, and then the insurance company will come in when the claim gets submitted. And as long as you're telling them as the pool professional saying, hey, I would like to fight this claim. I don't want this against me. They pay that deductible, and then the insurance company will fight for you. And sometimes they'll just pay it out.
Yeah.
It just depends on what exactly happened. But typically, that's what I would definitely recommend. Or if you have some kind of a program that you can put everything in, that's always good too.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially nowadays with software and programs, it's just very easy to be able to have those logs and go back to them.
Yeah. And also for your employees and everything. So you can always see what your employees are doing and make sure that they're doing the chemicals properly as well.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm just thinking, because I go back to a lot of the education, and I think a lot of these, as you started to want to talk about this, I'm like, these are all great little training points for pool pros to avoid some of those things.
It could definitely, if you want to, the education will help avoid these claims for sure.
Right.
And I don't know if it's like you're saying that guy was in there for 25 years and then an accident happens, but the more educated you are, the less likely these claims are going to happen. And then let's just say you have a couple claims on you, it's going to be hard to get insurance again if you're canceled.
Yeah. Happened to my son.
It did.
He kept driving and getting accidents. I kept telling him, you're not going to. And then all of a sudden, we got the letter at home, and he was like, yeah, we're not going to renew you anymore. I'm like, that's what we're talking about.
You're
right
no
there.
longer covered.
You're no longer covered. He's still learning the hard way, because then he had to pay, I think he was paying like $700 or $800 a month for insurance. And then
Expensive.
I think it's down to, the other day he was saying, oh, it's down to $350. I'm like, that's still a lot of money per month, but it's better than $800, right?
Right, definitely.
So obviously acid is a big one with staining and stuff like that. I would recommend to a lot of the pool pros. I always did it myself and always told the pool pros, do not park in the driveways if you can avoid it. Obviously, if it's a very long driveway, it's a totally different animal. But me and my guys were like, nope, we're parking out in the street. I don't care. Walk a little bit extra, but do not park in there for any reason. You don't want the oil. You don't want the acid. You don't want any of that. Pool pros, if you're listening, any opportunity to not have to pull into the driveway, hey, the odds are against you that you're going to have a problem, but there's a chance, right? What you want to do is avoid that headache of getting called. Staining of the pools, dark bottom pools, obviously a big thing. You can't add Tri-Chlor. Guys and girls out there, you can't add Tri-Chlor to those pools because it will bleach them out. It will stain them. Obviously, the heater damage is another big one. You really have to check for I think one of the things is the alkalinity in the pools, right? A lot of people will check the pH, will check chlorine levels and stuff like that. A lot of the newer guys and girls out there, we really recommend test that alkalinity a little bit more often. If you're doing any damage to the heater, obviously that would definitely do it. Leaving the water on, again, to a lot of the pool pros out there, you run your business however you want. I'm not telling you how to run your business, but for me, it was like, I'm not going to add water to the pools because I don't want that liability and I don't want the phone call and the headache of doing some major damage. And I've heard some horror stories.
Yeah.
On those.
Oh my God.
And if you go out in certain areas, like if you go out to where I was, like in Anaheim and stuff like that, the backyards are very small and they're pretty darn close to that back sliding door.
Yeah.
You overfill that and right into the back.
And the overfill, we had this one where all of a sudden it overflowed down into her downstairs room, and she had these Chinese oil paintings under the bed, and they were worth a lot of money. Oh yeah. That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, very stressful times. And those are the times that you just, even though everything will be okay at the end, it's just very stressful. It's not something that you want to go through. So obviously the draining out, going to the wrong P-trap or going right to the wrong drainage, so that backflows into the house.
Yeah. Some of them would come through the sinks. It's weird. Like we've seen them overflow through the sinks.
Tubs in the sinks, and the toilets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the guy that taught me how to do it always said, make sure that the homeowner's there. You're going to put it into the P-trap,
Yeah.
and you're going to wait at least 30 to 45 minutes and have them continuously check the faucets, the toilets, and the tubs.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I would be so nervous. I
And-
don't think I could ever drain a pool.
And that, that makes sense. You get that backflow into the house. But that was his one thing. It was always like, always check that. Do not just put it and walk away.
Yeah.
Have the homeowner there. I like that
Yeah,
one.
they made him, and he was like, you have to have the homeowner there.
Yeah. Because it's not just the water damage that it causes. There's also now that they have to pull apart the wall because of the mold and all the things. And then they have to dry it out. And it's a big pain in the butt and it's expensive. And if some of these houses are super nice that the pool professionals are working on, and you're going to get up there with how much it is. It could go up to your $1 million of coverage that you have.
And that's the thing, too, because if you only have $1 million in coverage and you have more than $1 million in damage, you're
Yeah.
screwed. That's your responsibility then.
For sure. And I think that's why I always say not only get your general liability policy, but look into doing an excess umbrella policy over what you have. It's just extra protection because once it's the $1 million is gone, that's all you have.
And normally those umbrella policies for pools, are they, like an example, I at home have my homeowner's insurance and then I have an umbrella policy, which is like $500 for $1 million a year,
Yeah.
which is like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
$40 a month. When you add that extra policy, is it?
It's about, I would say, anywhere from $800 a year up to, it's depending on the income or gross receipts. So basically,
So it's based
yeah.
on, but still, if your company's making that amount of money, then
Yeah.
we're talking $70-something a month for.
Yeah. And typically, I would say the most I've seen was $2,000. It's not too expensive, and you pay that for it's an annual policy, and so you pay that for the year, and you have that additional $1 million coverage, and then you get your commercial accounts that are requiring it more now. Especially, and I think we were going to talk about this too, was drownings that happen. And
Yeah, it's crazy. So let me ask you, most residential, and I'm drawing a blank, most residential, I was trying to remember the name of your program. So on the liability, the one that the residential homeowners use the most, what kind of coverage would that be? Like $1 million for a residential
yeah,
versus a commercial, which would
yeah,
want?
it's $1 million per claim. That's what most policies have, but for commercial accounts, they're requiring an additional umbrella coverage of $1 million. That's what all of a lot of them are doing it now.
Yeah. So let me ask you, so for Pool Pro, I only service residential pools, and forgive me because I don't know the different price points. So normally it's $1 million policy, or is it more and just covers $1 million per incident? How does that work?
$1 million. So, for example, let's just do our platinum program. That's a $4 million aggregate, $1 million per occurrence. So you get $4 million for the year, $1 million per occurrence. So you could have several claims. And you know what? Now that we're talking about that, we had an incident where there was a Legionella. Legionella? That was claim.
Oh, you just sent me down memory lane. Very scary. Yes.
So what happened was, it was basically some guy was in a hotel, and this particular guy that services the pools did several hotels, and they said that he had basically caused this outbreak in several hotels. So he had several claims against him. So those are per incident. So he had up to $4 million per incident. And some of them, one was up to $1 million, and the other one was like $350, and then the other, I think there was 3 or 4 claims against him. And even though he had the logs and everything, that's the hardest part with commercial accounts, is that the lawyers will get involved, and then that's it. They'll just go down, try to take everyone out that was involved in it.
Let me tell you my story really quick. So I was doing a hotel in Anaheim, very busy hotel because of Disneyland. And I get a call one day just that I needed to come down to the hotel ASAP because there was a big issue. And so I come down, and they were saying that there was a Legionella breakout. So, of course, who was the very first person that they pointed to? The pool guy. That's right. So they came down, and then we used it back then. There's no software, right? It was just all in the logbooks. So I go there, and they're like, this is this person, and he's got Legionnaires, and he's at the hospital, and they think that's what it is. And so we're going to have to do this investigation. When I tell you that it's a scary process to go through, it's a scary process because even though I had a great relationship with the hotel, things switch right away because it was Laurel, like we were talking, like somebody's has to be responsible now. And it was just very easy to see that relationship switch. And they were pretty much telling me that it was my fault without doing any due diligence. So they had this third-party company that came in, and now I can laugh about it, but it reminded me of like a movie where like they bring in these secret CIA people with briefcases, and the lady's asking me all these questions and taking water samples out of the pools, and they're talking to me like if I was already guilty, is what
Until
bothered
proven
me.
innocent.
Yeah, is what bothered me. And so what I did is I went and I grabbed the logs and I made copies of them because I was worried that they were going to go, oh, we can't find the logbook, right?
Yep.
And I kid you not, they came back and they said that they couldn't find the logbooks. And I said, interestingly enough, here's an extra copy for you.
That's awesome.
So long story short, it ended up not being the hotel. It ended up being that he was at some hospital that had some steam tower, I don't know what, and that's where he got it from.
Oh.
But you still had to defend yourself.
But I still had to defend myself. And as soon as I was cleared, I walked in and I said, this is my notice. I won't be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And my guys were like, why are we not doing this? This is a big account. We service it 5 days a week and all this kind of stuff. And the stress that I had to go through was completely crazy. And it's like, as a business owner, that's not something that you want to go through.
I mean, even if you have the insurance backing you up, you still are going to go through that stress.
Yep.
As an owner, you're still going to think about it at night. I mean, you overfill someone's pool, you're going to sit there at night going, oh my gosh, how did I do that? Why did I do that? Oh my.
Yeah.
And they broke the trust of your relationship.
They completely broke it and I was gone. And then that was the day that my mentality on the commercial pools changed because it was very quick to, you know, and then there's a lot more liability and there's a lot more that you have to take into consideration.
Sure.
Finger pointing.
Yeah. And when you have employees, then it's a lot more difficult because if it was me, right, I'm going to make sure that 100% of the time I'm doing it and I know that I'm doing it. And even if my employee does it, I'm laying in bed going, man, did Mike do that? He said that he did it, but did he really do it?
Yeah.
Did he not do it, right?
Sleepless nights.
Sleepless nights. So
It's not worth it.
yeah, that's been one of the reasons in my life where I overinsure. And a lot of people tell me you're overinsured. And I'm like, I could care less.
Yeah.
Don't care. I'm going to sleep better at night knowing that if something happens,
Transferred the liability.
and for what it cost
Yeah.
is,
Peace of mind.
you know, and it's just
Exactly.
like our umbrella policy. It's $40-some a month for an extra million. Hey, I'm going to sleep good at night. Something happens.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
protected.
covered.
That's
Yeah.
worth it for
Yeah.
sure.
So for the pool pros out there, absolutely do that. So let me come back. So how does your policies work? So do you have different plans?
Yeah, we have the silver program. That's it's a $2 million aggregate, 1 million per occurrence. The 3 million, 1 million, and the 4 million, 1 million. And the thing with the platinum program is we do offer $25,000 of faulty workmanship in there. So let's say you do something incorrectly, then you'll have up to $25,000 of faulty workmanship.
Included in that. So I'm assuming obviously
Yeah.
platinum, there's more added benefits.
There are,
to
yeah.
it.
And the thing is that not a lot of policies have faulty workmanship in them. I always try to push people towards that because especially if you have employees doing something incorrectly, the insurance companies will go, okay, we're going to deny this based upon you doing this incorrectly.
Right. No, scary. Definitely go out there. If you're not insured, obviously you should be. And gosh, I've talked to people. I think I shared a story. I had one young kid. He was like 23 years old and somebody told him, I shared this with you. The guy comes over to Laurel and somebody told him to empty a fiberglass pool and to acid wash it.
Okay.
And we know that you don't empty fiberglass pools because walls are going to cave in.
They
and
pop up.
sure enough, he called me up all stressed out and it caved from the side and it broke. And it was advice that he got. He trusted the other person and you don't even acid wash in a fiberglass pool.
Yeah.
Why would you tell him that,
Because the
right?
water keeps the pool in, basically.
Yeah.
So
Right.
as soon as the water comes out, all of that starts caving in.
Yep.
I've heard about those claims where they pop up.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
And I still talk to him. And what stood out is he wasn't running away from it. He was like, I'm going to deal with this. How do I deal with this? And long story short, he had to go get an attorney and they had to settle on it because
Right.
he didn't. But
Right.
the very next day, he went out and got insurance.
Good for him. Good for him.
And probably an excess policy, too.
Yeah. So hopefully
It's
that'll
sad
learn.
that-
Yeah.
Sad that has to happen before you get insurance. You know.
How common are pop ups?
In Florida, a lot.
Yeah.
Pool pop-ups for sure. As for the fiberglass pools, we don't insure someone draining a fiberglass pool. You can clean them all you want, and if damage happens on the property from cleaning that fiberglass pool, yeah, we'll cover that, but you don't drain those.
You don't.
We've
drain
had
them.
that happen, and we're like, sorry, come on. Yes, we've seen pool pop-ups pretty much in Florida. We always say, hey, watch the water tables, especially after a storm. I rarely see them in California. It's mostly Florida that we see them happen, and they're $350,000 claims, $450, because they're going to have to take everything out, put the new pool back in, all of the decking, all that stuff. So it gets up there.
Yeah. And then they're responsible for it, right? They don't have the coverage.
Yeah, I think if you go on our Instagram page, you'll see one of them. It's actually a real pop-up that we had. And it's like this big pool, and it looks like just...
Yeah, it just floats up.
Yeah.
On its side.
Boom. It's crazy.
It's like all of the gunite, everything just ring.
Is there a way that they can take liability away from that or no? Can you get a customer to sign a waiver release, or does that hold up?
We have waivers, but at the end of the day, if they get a lawyer, we're going to be here to protect them. It's a duty to defend. So that's what the insurance company is for. I mean, you could have them sign a waiver all day long, but unfortunately, that's what the insurance is for, is to protect you. And they're mostly going to come after you anyways. And they'll get a lawyer and...
The attorneys try and go around the waiver.
Yeah, exactly.
They try to go around it.
And then you have to defend yourself.
Yeah. If it's specifically stated in the policy, there's no coverage for this. Obviously, there wouldn't be any coverage, but a waiver, you can do that. But not all the time are they the best thing, because your policy will cover it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It is good, though, to sign. It makes them aware of it. And it would be like, basically at that point, it would be the customers. They would be the ones that wanted to sue at that point. So they can either say, okay, I did sign the waiver and that's my fault. But for signing that or whatever, at the end of the day, it's the lawyers that are going to come and get you.
Lawyers, it's just the business.
Yeah,
it's what I tell people. Unfortunately, once you've gone through some of these lawsuits and processes, you kind of understand very quickly. It's just a business.
Yeah.
It's like you can have a commercial pool and they can cut their foot on anything. And then for some reason, the guy that services the pool got sucked into the lawsuit, and you're like, well, wait a second,
we had that one where the kid was drinking, and he was in his 24 years old, I think he was, and he decided to do a dive into the 4-foot pool and became a paraplegic, and they ended up settling. At the time, we had a 2-4 policy, so it's a $2 million per occurrence. Ended up settling for that $2 million within, I think, 7 days. And then the reason that they paid it out so fast is because obviously it can go past that $2 million, and then the insurance companies are paying past that, or they can go after the individual personally. But that was just to say, okay, we're done. We're going to be done with this. But the reason what they went after the pool guy is because of the signs were not visible, that they were starting to fade, the red, and that also the water line, something with the water line was too high. And so obviously they brought in the pool professional into that claim. They also brought in the gardener. Everyone at the hotel or the apartment complex was brought in. Everyone in that. They were suing for, I think, $18 million for. It's sad because he is going to be a paraplegic the rest of his life for doing that. But unfortunately, I don't think it's because the signs weren't visible.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's what happens. So if they know that there's 5 insurance policies, they're going to go after it. Yeah. It's a business like anything else. They're going to go after all of them. And they're going to want the max, right? Yeah. And then $18 million, they look at it and go, Edgar could have been the host of the Pool Nation podcast, and that would have been X amount of dollars over his lifespan, which now he can't do. So
exactly what they did.
They look at it that way.
Yeah.
Pull everybody in.
They pull everybody. Yeah. So I tell you, that's why I'm overinsured.
Yeah, it's scary stuff. Like I've got my laptop here, and there's millions of dollars of claims that I'm looking at right now over the last 13 years. And it's just, there's one right here I'm just looking at real quick. Someone accidentally let a customer's dog out, and that dog attacked someone. That's just an accident. The door was left open, the dog got out and attacked someone walking their dog. And so we had to pay for that. These are like the simple claims of a pool going through someone's window. We even had a guy back up his truck and his pool was in the back and then went through someone's garage door. And so there's little ones to the biggest ones. And you don't think these things are going to happen, but they do. They happen every day. I get a claim, hey, there's this happened. And some of them like, are you kidding me? Like, what were you thinking? And then a lot of them like, wow, it's a good thing that this person did have insurance, because this was a pure accident and this is going to be expensive.
My head is spinning.
Yeah.
A lot of claims.
My head is spinning. I'm like, that's like a gold mine for education.
I think so.
That's a gold mine for education.
I would be so great for me, because that's what I think would help us with claims is, hey, let's do a little education thing saying, hey, this is going to watch out for.
If we go out there and go, what's the answers to the quiz?
Yeah.
Like, you're giving us the answers to the quizzes right there.
Yeah.
If obviously there's multiple claims, that means that has to be addressed.
Yeah.
So let's get together, because we're going to do something.
Knowledge is power.
We're going to do something.
That'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, one of the things that we haven't done is we haven't taken a word from our sponsors in today's podcast. So here's what we're going to do is take this to the spot for the sponsors, and then let's get back into the podcast.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
We talk about the claims from the service side and all that, but I think there's a lot of things that we don't talk about, and that is when we talk about whether it's disability or we just had a pool pro not long ago, maybe 2 months ago. The details were that he mixed chemicals in the skimmer, and unfortunately they got to him and he passed away.
Oh, man.
Oh, so sad.
And
Was it called mustard gas?
We didn't get all the details of what it was that they mixed into the skimmer, and there's, you know how it is, then all the stories start going everywhere. I don't know exactly what it was, but from what we've heard is that there was a mixture of chemicals in the skimmer and that got to him. So I don't know exactly. Yeah. So allegedly that's what they're saying that happened at that. But now you have a family that's destroyed, that doesn't have their father providing for them. And when we're younger, we think that we're invincible. We think that's never going to happen to us until you're older like me and you got to take ibuprofen before you go to bed. But talk to us a little bit about thinking on the other side of the coin. What are some of those things that pool pros should have, and then maybe some of the cases that you've seen when it comes to like a disability?
I think it's a great topic because we talk a lot about covering your business with general liability insurance, but there is the other side of the coin. Like you said, protecting yourself personally and your family if something unexpected happens. And you don't want to have something happen and not have the coverage, like the stories that we've been talking about something happens and then they get insurance. But the individual that you were just talking about, young guy, probably had a family and he was the provider, sole provider. And now financially, what are they going to do? Not only that, but when something like that happens, that you think that, yes, his spouse could go to work and take care of their family, but there's the whole time of grieving that people go through where you're almost numb and you can't really get your thought processes together. And if you don't have any kind of income coming in during that time, things can spiral so quickly. I always talk to people about having life insurance. Even young people should have life insurance because there's going to be bills left, family left, and everybody's grieving. And then they have to come up with the cost of funeral expenses or medical bills. But the really important thing is once you're in business and you have a family and you have kids, just get some coverage, at least look at, I would say a minimum I have people look at, and I think it's like a bare minimum is 6 months of income because that gives people a chance to get through their grieving before they move on. But more than that is really important for most families. And it doesn't have to be expensive. And you don't say, oh, I need $1 million. You don't need $1 million. You need a reasonable amount based on what your family's income and expenses are right now, the household bills, things like that. So
I just looked it up. It says that an average in the United States, the total cost typically ranges from $7,000 to $12,000 in funeral costs.
I would say that's accurate.
And here's the funny thing is when I was young, I would just joke around and be like, oh, I don't need life insurance. If I'm dead, I'm gone. What? And somebody said to me, it's engraved in my head and it shut me up. And they're like, it's not about you. It's about the people that you leave behind.
Exactly.
And it was exactly what you were talking about. It's the grieving that they're going to have to do. And then the fact of, if you do have a spouse.
I had a story, and you guys might have heard this story because I was fairly new to life insurance industry, and I was talking with this group of people, and they were all very young, like I would say between 18 and 24, 25. And I was thinking, nobody here wants to hear about life insurance. They're invincible.
Yeah.
But as soon as I started talking about it, one girl said, I'm getting it right now. She said, my cousin passed away in a motorcycle accident. She said, and the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life, and look, it's almost making me teary again now, is watching my aunt and uncle cash out credit cards, ask family for help, do church donations because they didn't have the money to cover the cost of a funeral and everything that they had to do when their son passed away. And she said, I don't ever want my family to go through that. Yeah. So like Danielle was saying, $7,000 to $12,000, that's a lot of money for some people.
Yeah, I make all my kids have their long-term life insurance policies are even my 16-year-old.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But looking at bigger amounts is usually better for people with families. And you can get a term policy for 20 years. And I say after 20 or 30 years, maybe your house is paid off. Your kids are grown up. You don't need as big of a lump sum of money as you would during that time. So that's a term policy. And they can be so affordable, like really affordable. So...
Now, what about disability? Because I think that's another big one, right? And we were talking a little bit about some of the claims and stuff like that, but you think that nothing's going to happen to you, and then it does.
And then it does. And there are accidents. And a lot of times, we were talking earlier that they're completely out of your control. When accidents happen every day and people think disability that they're going to need it if they're paraplegic or something like Danielle was talking about. But what if you're just going to miss work what if you can't take care of your company for 3 or 4 weeks? How is that going to look? Can your family go 3 or 4 weeks without any income coming in at all? Or can you afford to pay somebody to help you take care of your pool business while you're unable to work. And that can be little things. That can be, I just did a claim for somebody who broke their hand and they're like, it's my right hand. I can't really do anything. I can do some computer work maybe with my left hand if I can even get that to coordinate. And I said, yeah, you can't really do much at all. So he's filing a disability claim. And when it's an accident, usually disability claims pay you starting on day one. So it's nice. He's going to have money coming in right away that he can use to help keep his business going.
Can you give us an example of someone, let's just say he's 30 years old and has 3 kids at home, a wife that doesn't work, and something happens, he gets hurt on the job. Can you give me an example of a payout for someone of that age?
All disability benefits are based on your income that you have, your annual income coming in. And we try and match it as best we can. Generally, we can get you up to about 70% of your income, which you figure if you're taking into account taxes that you pay, it's really close to what you're used to bringing in. So we take a look at your annual income and we determine what a monthly benefit amount would be. And then if something happened to that person, that man that had the family, he files a claim and it get paid right away day one. And his coverage, like I said, would be about 70%. And his policy rates, is that what we're looking at?
Yeah.
Depending on what income amount we're talking about, would be anywhere from, say, $50 to $125 a month to have that coverage. Obviously, $125 is someone that has a higher income. It works out. But it seems to me like not a lot of money to have that peace of mind that if something happened, especially if your wife doesn't work, or what if your wife works with you in the business? And it's the same thing. You're without any kind of funds coming in. And you really, for an accident, 3 to 4 weeks is not a long amount of time. For a break or a sprain, you can probably get back to what you're doing in about 3 or 4 weeks. But what if it's something more serious?
Yeah.
And I think we were talking earlier about that claim. There was a claim that I did not too long ago, someone that was rear-ended while they were out driving. And they had, from that whiplash, when you get hit in the back, they had damage to their neck and their spine, and they had to wear what are those, around their neck? The neck brace. Yeah. And you can't really turn. You can't really walk. You can't drive. That's going to be a longer disability. So really somebody that owns their own business, if they're going to go more than a month or so, how's this business going to keep going?
Yeah.
How am I going to keep this? Am I going to lose my business over this? Can I afford to pay somebody to... You're paying money when you're not making money,
Yeah.
I have an example. He's actually a family friend, but also he does pools, and he had some eye surgery and it went wrong, and he almost couldn't see for a few weeks. And thankfully my brother-in-law was sweet and he went with him to his jobs and helped him do the pools. But they had to put eye drops in his eye every day. And I think about if he didn't have my brother-in-law or someone to help him, that's just him. He has that company.
Right. How is he going to keep it? He would have to hire somebody to do that for him, but family's great.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You can't always count on family, though. They have their own family
Exactly.
they're taking care of.
Yeah.
Or what if it's a wife and husband combo? The wife works doing
all the books,
all that kind of stuff. And the person is, and there's a lot of people that we know that do that, right? That their husbands are doing all that. If he gets hurt out there, that's where the income stops.
It's double income that stops.
Yes.
The income they're both making comes from one source, and it's gone.
Yeah. And $50 to $125, that's dirt cheap.
Well worth it, I think, just to have that peace of mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you were talking about another one, which I always joke around, but you don't think about it. Pool guy, he's skateboarding and...
Yes. When you're self-employed, sometimes you can be afraid to actually go out and have fun. You want to go skiing or snowboarding or skateboarding or riding a bull.
Yeah, riding a bull.
$1 million bull.
But you always have that thought in the back of your mind, like, what if something happens? And that did happen. We had a guy that was skateboarding with his son, just out having fun skateboarding, and anything can happen when you're on a skateboard. You hit a little rock or think you're better than you are, or anything can happen. And he fell. And usually when a skateboarder falls, you think they're going to hurt their wrist or their arm. They put those hands out to catch themselves. And he broke his leg. I'm not quite sure how that happened, but...
Some gnarly downhill or skateboarding.
Yeah.
Half pipe, something.
Yeah. What exactly was he doing?
A broken leg, as a pool pro, you're doomed. Because with one hand, if you break your left hand, then you can try to finagle your way. But
just out playing with his son, and all of a sudden, his whole life changed. But he broke his leg, and he needed help walking, and then he needed a boot after that, and hard to get around a pool with a crutches or a boot. You know, what are you going to do? And it's funny. It's just a fun little thing that you're out doing. And we probably do things like that all the time, playing soccer with the kids, and you step in a hole and all of a sudden you've sprained your ankle and everything's all swollen. You can't move around. All kinds of things like that happen, and everything changes in just a minute.
Yeah, it's actually scary. Believe it or not, we've been talking for exactly an hour. I think we need to do these a little bit more often.
Yeah.
I think we need to use them as educational podcasts or goals to be able to
here's the
continue.
claims. How would we benefit from, what could we do not to have these claims?
Then even for us, and I'm going to take it as a challenge for us, I'm going to go back and I'm going to shoot some videos on these topics specifically. And they could just be smaller, short videos that we can either post on social media, we can put on the Pool Man University, and get a lot of the pool pros to just be aware.
For sure.
Because to me, it's funny because what I learned early on as a pool pro were a lot of the things that I did, right? You know, the guy telling me, don't put that hose in that P-trap unless you know for sure that the homeowner was home and that they checked and you were there for 45 minutes. That's the way I always did it because that's the way I was taught. But if nobody would have ever taught me that, I'd just be like, boop, hose, and I'm out the door,
off.
right? So I think the more we talk about it, and hopefully the earlier we get to the pool pros, these are the things that they'll take into account, and then obviously save a nightmare for themselves.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to go through that.
And for the insurance companies, we got to keep those down.
Yeah. And especially nowadays with everything just going up and cost of construction and cost of everything. It's like you got to do your best to keep it all down. So anyways, ladies, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited about it. We're going to have you back. We're going to have to do another one of these.
Another girls' weekend.
Another girls' weekend. No wonder your girlfriends like me. Now it makes sense. So like every time we hear Edgar, we hear get together. So you know what?
Girls' weekend.
Girls' weekend, right? Normally what happens, Laurel, is wives are not happy to hear Edgar, right? Because it's like the husbands come out, the husbands play with us, they do all the stuff. But with her, it's backwards.
The other way.
Friends are like, Edgar, I saw, you know. It's like, you know, the dog treat, right? They hear the word treat, they get excited. They hear the word Edgar, and all they hear is, where are we going next?
I have like a girls group chat, and it's like, when's the next podcast?
They start dropping.
Yeah.
Have you talked to Edgar lately?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you know. So.
It'll be really bad when they come up with their own topics for you.
Oh, yeah. That's next. I'm going to tell them when I get back.
I love it. And I didn't get to see Chelsea, so tell her I said hi.
I will, yeah.
So I remember her all the time. But anyways, tell her I said hi. Thank you so much for coming out. We really appreciate it. Everybody stay tuned. We will catch you guys next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. PoolmanUniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at PoolmanUniversity.com.